Hey Algebra 1, we are going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines, lesson 5.6. So parallel and perpendicular lines. So just so we have a reference for what these look like. For parallel lines, do we know what they look like? So I'm just going to I'm going to sketch it over on the side. I have one line that looks like this. What would happen if I drew a parallel line? Should it cross it or not cross it? Yeah, parallel lines mean they'd never cross, and so it's going to go at the same angle. If it has the same angle, how do we describe that in our line? They're going to have the same slope. Okay, so parallel have the same slope. Okay, so I just want us to have a reference point before we keep going. And then when we look at, if I want to draw perpendicular lines, oops, sorry, it's not very straight, but perpendicular lines, they're going to be different than parallel. So if I have some line on here, what's going to happen with a perpendicular line? Will it cross it or will it never cross it? Yeah, it will cross it. They'll intersect, but they intersect at a particular angle. So a perpendicular line, there's only one like angle, and it means it intersects at like a right angle. Okay, it's like a 90-degree angle, like a perfect like square angle kind of. So that's what perpendicular lines look like. Okay. So before we move forward, I just wanted us to have a picture of what they look like as we go ahead. Okay, so slopes, we're going to talk about slopes and then drawing equations for parallel and perpendicular lines. So lines that are parallel have the same slope. Okay, so they're never going to intersect, they have the same slope. Lines that are perpendicular have slopes that are what are called opposite reciprocals. Okay, so reciprocal we've talked about. That's like if you have a fraction, you flip it. Okay, reciprocal. Opposite means it also has the same sign. Sorry, it has the opposite sign. So if one slope is positive, the perpendicular slope is going to have to be negative. Okay, and they have opposite signs. In other words, if a line has a slope a over b, any line that is parallel to it will have the same slope. Again, the same slope. Any line that is perpendicular to it will not have the same slope. I don't know why that's written there. Oh, we'll have the slope, sorry. It'll have negative b over a. So the perpendicular, it will have the slope of negative b over a. Okay, so let me just try one, like a couple on the side. So here, what's an example of if the slope is 1/2. So the perpendicular sign is kind of like this. The perpendicular would be perpendicular like this. Kind of looks like an upside down T. Perpendicular slope would be what? So if the original slope is 1/2, I want the perpendicular slope be the reciprocal. So you flip the fraction and we change the sign. So this one is going to be -2. Okay, let me give you another one. So if my original slope is -3, what is the perpendicular slope? So if any integer, we can always write like 3 over 1. So if I flip that, what's the reciprocal of -3? It's going to be 1/3. And then the sign changes, so this would be positive. Okay. Another note is if you're checking if slopes are perpendicular. So perpendicular slopes will multiply to -1. Okay, so like this example that I just gave you, if I were to multiply those two together, 1/2 times -2, what does that equal? Like the 2's would be cancel and you get -1. Okay, these two that I gave you, if I multiply those, just do it right below it, the -3 times 1/3, what do those equal? -1. So if a problem ever asks you, are they perpendicular, you can always double check it by multiplying them and finding that they multiply to -1, then yes, they are perpendicular. Okay, so find the slope of each line, then state whether each pair of lines is parallel, perpendicular, or neither. There is a lot of examples on here. We're just going to use the first two to look at this. Okay, so we're looking at a line that goes through the point A and the point E. Okay, so this one and this one. That's what this is asking for. A line that goes through AE. And really to tell if they're parallel or perpendicular or neither, we really just need to look at their slopes. Okay. And so for their slope, for AE, we're going to use just our slope formula, so our y's over our x's, change in y's. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm going to do -2 minus 3 over -3 minus 0. This is going to be -5 over -3, which gives me 5/3. Okay, and then we're going to just change my pen color here. So DF would be D and F. Okay, so DF, that slope, we're going to do our y's. So I'm going to do 5 minus 0 over, and then my x's, 4 minus 1. I have 5 over 3. So if this is my slope for this one, and this is my slope for this one, how are they related? They're the same, so these lines would be parallel. Okay. All right, let's try line number 2, or example number 2. So let me erase these here. These lines over here. Okay, so AC, we're going to look at A and we're going to look at C. So this slope is going to be, again, we're going to use y, so 6 minus 3 over -5 minus 0. So 6 minus 3, I get 3. I still have a -5, so I've got -3 over 5. And then we're going to use the line AE and find that slope. So A, again, I'm going to use this one, and E. So whichever one you want to use first for your y's, I'm going to use -2 minus 3 over, -3 minus 0. So I'm just making sure I have that right. So this is -5 over a -3, which turns to a positive 5/3. So when you look at these two slopes, how are they related? Well, they're not the same. Okay, so are they opposite reciprocals? Yes. Okay, and so these are going to be perpendicular. The lines will be perpendicular. Okay, so then skip the rest of this page. We're going to go down to the next one. So turn the page. And we're going to look at writing an equation of a line, and it's going to ask if it's parallel or perpendicular to some equation. Okay, so we want to write an equation of a line. Okay, our answer, we want it to be in slope-intercept form. So again, we want to keep track of what form we're going for. That is, and these are important, we want to look at it's parallel to y equals -1/2 x plus 4. And then they give us, it passes through a point on the new line. So our line is to be parallel, so that means what about our slope? So if this is the slope in the original one and we want it to be parallel, what do we know? The new line would also have the same slope. So the new slope is also going to be -1/2. And then we're going to use that point that they gave us, 6, 1, to write an equation. So again, we have two strategies for this. You can use y equals mx plus b form to plug it in, solve for b. You can also use point slope form if you like that better. So we're going to use the point negative 6, 1, and oops, sorry. This is the slope. So our slope of negative 1/2, and then our point is negative 6, 1. So it's your choice of whether you want to do slope-intercept form. So it's y equals mx plus b or point slope. Our final answer, we want to be in slope-intercept form, but you can use either strategy to get there. So I'm actually going to show you both on this one, just so that you can see them. So for y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form, I would have y equals negative 1/2 x plus b. I'm going to plug in this point for my x and my y. So my y would equal 1. My x is negative 6. And I'm going to solve for b. Just be careful with your signs. Negative 1/2 times negative 6. The half of 6 is 3. And I have two negatives. So we have positive 3. And then I'm going to subtract 3 to the other side. So I'd end up with negative 2 equals b. Okay. Can I write the equation now? Yeah, I would have y equals negative 1/2 x minus 2. Okay, so that's your equation. You only have to solve it one way, but let me just show you how slope-intercept form also, or sorry, point-slope form would also work. You would do y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x plus 6. Okay. And again, we want our answer should be the same. We want it in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to distribute this 1/2. And this would become half of 6, and it's negative, so it would be 3. I'm going to add the 1 to the other side. So either way, you're going to get the same answer. You only have to choose one strategy. This one is point slope over here. If you're comfortable with that, do that. If you like slope-intercept form, do that. It's really your choice. Okay, example 2. Write an equation of a line perpendicular. Okay, so be careful. We're going to keep track of this. Perpendicular to this. And we want our final answer to be in point slope form. Okay, so here's the slope in this equation, but we want it to be perpendicular. So the slope we're going to use in our new equation, we flip it and change the sign. It's going to be 2. So we've got a slope of 2, and we have this point, negative 6, 1. So point slope form, I'm going to have y minus my y coordinate, 1 equals 2, my slope, x minus a negative 6. So it turns to a plus 6 because I got this negative 6. So it's minus a negative 6, which that's how I get that plus. Okay. Just erase that. So the answer was supposed to be in point slope form, so that's it. We don't have to do anything more than that. That's our answer. Okay, so most often, like example 3, you're going to see things that are not in our slope-intercept form, where you can't always just look at it and tell what the slope is. So for this one, write an equation of a line in standard form that is parallel. Okay, so we want to have the same slope as this. And then passes through the line 3, 7. So let's get this one, the 2x minus 3y, into slope-intercept form so that we can tell what the slope is. So slope-intercept form is y by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 2x. Okay, and then we're going to divide by negative 3 to everything. So negative 2 over a negative 3 is going to be a positive 2/3 x. And 3 divided by negative 3 is going to be minus 1. So out of that, we really just want the slope, okay? And in this case, we want it to be parallel. So parallel means the same slope. So we want to use this slope, the 2/3. The slope is 2/3. and the point they gave us is 3, 7. So you can get this in slope-intercept form, point-slope form, whatever you want, but then we're going to have to get it in standard form. Okay, so we're going to have to rearrange it. So I'm going to use point-slope form just because I like it, but you don't have to. So I'm going to do y minus my y coordinate, so 7 equals 2/3 x minus 3. So first step, I'm going to distribute this. 2/3 x minus, the 3's are going to cancel, so I just have the 2. And it's a standard form. Remember, the x's and the y's are on the same side, and we have no fractions, and the first number can't be negative. So first I'm going to kind of move some things around. So I'm a minus 2/3 x. And then I also need to add this 7. It needs to get out of the way. So I'm going to continue over here. So I have negative 2/3 x plus y, and then 7 minus 2 is 5. So my problem is with the value in front of x. It's a negative and it's a fraction. So I need to multiply both sides to get rid of that. So I want to multiply by negative 3 to both sides. End up with a 2x. Remember, the 3 has to get distributed, so minus 3y equals negative 15. Okay, so that is our answer in standard form. Okay, last example of this. So write the equation of the line in point-slope form. That's what our answer should be, point-slope form. That is perpendicular to the given line and passes through the given point. Okay, so this is the given point that we have over here. So our point, what are the coordinates on this guy? Negative 3, 0. And the slope of the line, let's look at it. Can we tell what it is? I feel like mine is a little bit zoomed in. I like cut off. Hopefully on yours it's not cut off. I feel like it's cut off. So anyway, so from this point you should be able to go down 1, 2, 3 over 2 is where it should. Hopefully your picture isn't cut off. So our slope here is down 3 over 2. And I want the perpendicular slope. So the perpendicular slope, change the sign, flip it. So 2/3. So I'm going to write an equation in point-slope form with this point and this perpendicular slope. So y minus my y coordinate is 0 equals 2/3 x. And then I have minus a negative 3, so double negative turns to a positive. Okay, and then we want it in point-slope form, so that is it. So just watch what form you need your answer to be in. If it's point-slope form, slope-intercept, standard form, just make sure you leave it in that correct form. All right, thanks so much, you guys.